what you will need to start incorporating into your life, and again, this is like a process. This is not something that you can do in like a 24-hour period. This is a process where you learn more and more over time. And again, remember from step one, you are giving yourself a year to be alone, okay? And you are going to be doing this work. So the next step is that you're going to incorporate action to back up your changing of narratives. The one thing you might notice when you are doing your writing is, wow, I have a problem with setting boundaries with people, and this has caused a lot of harm in my life. Like, wow, when I look at all my relationships lined up like this, I have always just jumped into relationships, and I have led with my sexuality, and I have not taken time to get to know people, and I have allowed people to take advantage of me. So, okay, I need to actually work on my boundaries. Like, I need to take that step and change that. So here's what I did. And it was in 2020 when I actually really started doing this, because when COVID started, although it was a horrible thing for the world, it allowed me for the first time in my life to be able to take some time to work on my mental health. As I had been living in fight or flight my entire life. I had been in active addiction for all of my 20s, in and out of toxic relationships, a young single mom, struggling, working as a bartender, like just, oh God, it was just constant stress. And when COVID happened, I got laid off, and it was the first time in my life where like we were quarantined. We couldn't go anywhere or really see anyone. It was just my daughter and I. So I really had that huge amount of time to focus on my mental health, and I started really looking at this stuff and really taking action. But things started to get better for me pretty quickly as I started addressing my mental health and the reality of my circumstances, because being in that abusive relationship, I was like, I never want to experience something like that again. Things didn't just get perfect after that. Like, this has been a long process for me, and I'm still learning every day. But I can honestly say at this point in my life, I am so much more secure than I was back then. And every year I have learned more and more. And every relationship I've been in, I've learned more about what I want and don't want. And I have gained wisdom from those experiences, rather than saying, ugh, another person that, was out here to fuck me over on purpose. Instead, I have said, okay, this relationship didn't work out. There were things that went wrong. Like, how can I look at this and gain wisdom from it so that I can change for the better? One thing I started doing in 2020 was that I had done all this writing from my step work, and I had noticed that my boundaries were just horrid. And so I started putting boundaries in place with people so that like I could no longer be so taken advantage of. And I remember one of the first times that I did this, I had been in this friendship with a guy. We had like briefly dated or whatever, and I felt like I was just kind of being strung along, and I felt like I was kind of being taken advantage of in some ways. And I just remember one day him asking if he could borrow money, and I just remember responding and saying like, like, no shame for asking, but I'm just not comfortable with that. And that time just sticks out to me because it really was one of the first times that I like set a hard boundary. I didn't feel like I could set boundaries before. I would pretty much like do anything that people wanted, especially men, especially if I liked them or had a crush on them. Like, I felt like, this is how you earn love from people. And when you start putting action in place, like when you start setting boundaries, it becomes easier and easier to do it, and you start feeling really good about the fact that you are doing it. And so it at a certain point, it becomes second nature, where you just are a person that sets boundaries now. For an avoidant person, it might look different. It might be that you need to work on your vulnerability. You need to work on asking for help or allowing people in a little bit. And so you might have to start slow with smaller things. You need help with something, and instead of just always handling it yourself, you call someone up and ask them to help you. Or maybe something happens in your life, and instead of just immediately suppressing it, you call someone and talk about it. And these things can be really scary at first. It was really scary for me to set a boundary because I was not used to doing that. But the more you do it, you realize that it actually doesn't lead to like death like we think. Like, we think it's going to lead to like rejection, death, all these things. Even if it does lead to rejection, you realize that that actually isn't as scary as you're making it out to be. The last step is building your self-confidence by doing things that make you feel good that only you can do for yourself. So a lot of people, when they have anxious attachment, they use other people to build their confidence or to validate or reassure them. So you're going to start engaging in things that will make you feel good about yourself. I really started doing this in 2020 and it changed me so quickly. I started exercising every day. That built confidence. That made me feel good. It made me feel healthy. I started drawing again. I started my TikTok. I started businesses. I started to feel like, wow, I'm actually like really talented and smart. I have a lot more to offer than just the way I look or my body or sex. And it built my confidence little by little. I also sought help from doctors for my mental health because I had like debilitating OCD. I got on medication which stabilized me, and I was able to get to the point of realizing like, wow, I actually don't need chaos in my life. Like, I was the type of person, one of my narratives was like, I'm just crazy and I always need to be with a toxic guy because I'm just like a crazy girl and like a healthy guy won't like me or understand me. Once I stabilized and started building my confidence and setting boundaries, what I realized was like that was just a huge lie that I was telling myself. There are stable people in the world and healthy people that have also had things happen to them that can understand my trauma or can understand my story but are still healthy and can be in a healthy relationship. Like, those things I was telling myself were completely false. And so as you work through all of this, you might realize that like therapy would really benefit you, or getting on medication would really benefit you, or just seeing some kind of healthcare professional, which I highly encourage in this process. But I guess what I want to stress overall is that getting to the point of being secure is a process. It's a journey. It's not always going to be perfect. There's going to be ups and downs. You might still get into toxic relationships, but everything you do, you're learning from it. And self-awareness is the key. Like, staying in this victim mentality or continuing to constantly suppress your needs and your feelings is only going to keep you in the same patterns of behavior. You have to really challenge those things and then back it up with action. And you have to have the willingness to start the process. Nobody's going to do it for you. You have to do it. And you might not be ready. Like, there were periods of my life where I just wasn't ready. There are just things that we have to address within ourselves so that we can see the world and other people more clearly.